Last week's episode of Rick and Morty left me thinking about why Rick left for 20 years and that whole situation. And after thinking it over for a day or two, I finally think I have come up with a handful of theories on exactly why he left for 20 years and what happened. So basically, this entire video is going to be about doing these different theories and just explaining them all to you. So let's just start off with the first one I came up with. And the first one I came up with is that Rick was invited to join the Citadel of Ricks, and that's why he left for 20 years. Now, a lot of you probably be like, but our Rick doesn't really like the Citadel, and he never actually joined them. He hated them. But I actually have a very good argument for you, and basically, our Rick may have not left for 20 years because of this, but a lot of Ricks possibly would have left for this. So basically what happens in this scenario is that Rick discovers, interdimensional travel or whatever, and he explores for a little bit while remaining home. Like, he comes home after so long or whatever. But eventually he's approached by another Rick, the Rick that originally wanted to start the Citadel, and he starts recruiting Ricks, and Rick just joins them, and he leaves for 20 years, and just sort of like, I don't want to do the whole Citadel thing anymore, so he retires, I guess, and goes back home. This could explain why many of the Ricks left for 20 years, but it possibly would not really explain why our Rick left for 20 years. So our Rick, in this same scenario, our Rick possibly would have been invited to this after exploring, interdimensional stuff. And when he's intrigued by it, he's interested, so he decides that he's going to do it. And once he goes there, the Ricks explain to him that this Citadel was created because a galactic federation is sort of taking over the galaxy, more or less. And Rick is a little bit upset about this. He doesn't really like this, and he decides he wants to do something about this galactic federation instead of just building his own government, which he's not really a huge fan of. So what he does is he decides that he's going to attack this galactic federation, and that's exactly what he does. He more or less wages war against them, possibly having a handful of Ricks, possibly, and then meeting Squanchy and Bird Person and all of those characters. That would actually help him fight back. And basically, the idea for this is that our Rick would have fought against the Federation for about roughly 20 years, and maybe he's just getting tired of it. Maybe he's getting sick of it. Maybe he's just overthinking, like, why am I even doing this anymore? Or maybe they all just get too old or something, or something happens. Maybe the Federation is very heavily beaten, and Rick just decides that they've done all they can do, so they just more or less quit. And then Rick goes home and realizes that he's been gone for 20 years, and that sort of becomes another scenario for why our Rick had left for 20 years. Of course, this theory would mean that Rick may or may not have left intentionally. Anyway, let's move on to another scenario. And the other theory that I've came up with is that in this last episode, the Frumpyland episode, we discover that Beth is actually very, very messed up in the head, sort of like Rick. She's sort of evil to a certain degree, and he had built all kinds of weapons for her. So another theory that I've come up with is that Rick was actually afraid of Beth, so he left for 20 years, and alternatively, he left for 20 years in order to spare Beth of a life similar to his own, because he was working with her a little bit, just a little bit, building these crazy weapons and stuff for Beth, and he decided that this is going to bring her to a terrible path, and I don't want her to go down this path. So I can't do this, and I can't just, there's nothing else I can do. I can just leave for 20 years. So he leaves, and about 20 years later, he decides that he's going to return and try and make amends or something. Or he returns 20 years later because he needs Morty. But anyway, that's another theory for why he left for 20 years. Another idea could be that he discovers interdimensional travel, and he decides that he's going to use this interdimensional travel gun for the first time or whatever, and he uses it and he goes to another dimension only to realize and learn and discover or whatever that his interdimensional gun needs to be recharged and it needs to be, you know, refilled or whatever. So now he's stuck in this other dimension, and so he's working on this gun to try and fix it so that he can get back home, or something to that effect. And what happens is he decides that once he gets it working, he decides that maybe he should just kind of explore a little bit and then go home. So that's what he does. Perhaps this is the point when he discovers the Galactic Federation and decides to do something about it. Perhaps he goes to another dimension, discovering a young Morty, which will allow him to have, you know, photographs and memories of another Morty, or something to that effect. But he goes through different dimensions and stuff, and then once he gets sick and tired of it all, he decides that he wants to finally go back home. And at this point, it has already been 20 years, and he returns at the beginning, you know, the pilot episodes 20 years later. But anyway, these are just a handful of theories on why Rick may have left for 20 years. And I would love to hear your own theories about this. So go ahead and comment those below. And do not forget to like, subscribe, share, do all those wonderful things. And that's the whole video. Don't forget to check out the links that are in the description. What's going on, my viewers, my subscribers? So I've been thinking about something funny or fun or interesting that I can do on my channel, and I thought of something brilliant. So I thought of that people can list truth or dare type comments in the comments, after I go through them, I can pick one, and then I can actually do that truth or that dare at the beginning of another video or at the end of another video. So go ahead and leave some truth or dare comments down. It could be anything that you know that I'm physically or physically able to do. Truth or dare.